Before the turnstile, controlled entry depended on people. Someone stood at a door, someone checked a ticket, someone decided who could pass and who couldn't. This system worked as long as scale remained manageable and compliance was socially enforced. But as cities grew and public spaces became denser, that model began to break down. Trains needed to move thousands of people quickly. Stadiums needed to admit crowds in waves. Factories, fairs, and subways all faced the same challenge. How do you regulate flow without slowing everything down? The problem wasn't access alone. It was fairness. If entry depended on human attention, mistakes happened. People slipped through, arguments occurred, delays multiplied. Every exception introduced friction. The turnstile exists because that friction became unacceptable. Early approaches tried to formalize entry through tickets, stamps, or passes, but those still required verification. Gates could be opened and closed, but that created bottlenecks. Locks provided control, but demanded keys, checks, or trust. The design challenge was subtle. Allow movement, but only in the correct quantity. Not zero, not unlimited, exactly one. This is where the turnstile's core idea emerges. Instead of asking a person to enforce rules, it embeds the rule into the object itself. The rotating arms create a physical sequence that can only complete once per person. One push equals one entry. This is a crucial shift. The turnstile doesn't judge. It doesn't verify identity. It doesn't negotiate. It simply responds to motion. That simplicity hides a deep understanding of human behavior. People naturally push forward when space opens. They hesitate when resistance appears. The turnstile uses this instinctive response rather than fighting it. Earlier gate designs often failed because they demanded attention. Signs had to be read, instructions had to be followed, guards had to intervene. The turnstile removes interpretation. You don't wonder how it works. You feel it. The resistance of the arm signals when it's your turn. The reset tells you when it's not. This physical clarity reduces conflict. There's no argument with the turnstile. It's not personal. It's not discretionary. It's mechanical. That neutrality matters in crowded, stressful environments. But control alone isn't enough. The turnstile also had to move people efficiently. If it slowed flow too much, it defeated its purpose. If it moved too freely, it allowed tailgating. This is where design trade-offs become visible. The spacing of the arms, the weight of rotation, the force required to push, none of these are arbitrary. They're tuned to the average human body, tall enough to block passage, light enough to move without strain, slow enough to discourage pushing through together. Weather, durability, and maintenance add further constraints. Turnstiles often live outdoors or in high-traffic indoor spaces. They're kicked, leaned on, rushed, and ignored. The materials must survive constant use without precise care. Mechanical simplicity becomes an advantage. Fewer parts mean fewer failures. Placement also plays a critical role. Turnstiles are usually positioned at natural choke points, entrances, exits, or transitions between spaces. They don't create lines so much as formalize them. People queue because the object implies sequence. This is where human behavior becomes central. People are remarkably good at following physical cues. We line up at counters because the space suggests it. We stop at curbs because the ground changes. The turnstile leverages this instinct by making orderly movement the path of least resistance. Over time, this changes expectations. People approach a turnstile knowing what to do. They prepare tickets. They wait their turn. The object doesn't just regulate movement, it trains behavior. This leads to a moment of realization that's easy to miss. The turnstile doesn't exist primarily to stop people from entering. It exists to standardize fairness at scale. Everyone passes through the same mechanism. Everyone is counted the same way. Everyone encounters the same resistance. This removes ambiguity. It replaces judgment with process. Attempts to replace the turnstile reflect changing technologies, but not changing needs. Electronic gates, card readers, and sensors add layers of verification, but they often retain the same physical logic. Even modern fare gates still use rotating barriers or swinging arms to enforce one-person passage. When designs remove physical feedback entirely, problems return. Tailgating increases. Conflicts reappear. Systems compensate by adding surveillance or penalties. The original turnstile avoided these complexities by embedding control directly into motion. This is why the basic form persists. It works without power. It works without instruction. It works whether someone is watching or not. The turnstile survives technological shifts because it solves a human problem, not a technical one. It manages impatience. It manages crowd psychology. It manages fairness under pressure. And like many successful designs, it fades into the background. People only notice turnstiles when they're broken, locked, or removed. When they work, they disappear into routine. That invisibility is not accidental. It's the result of a design that understands how people move through space and how rules feel when they're enforced physically rather than socially. The turnstile still exists in its current form because it doesn't argue with human behavior. It accommodates it, channels it, and quietly keeps things moving. Good design doesn't need to explain itself. It simply shapes action until the action feels natural. The turnstile doesn't just control entry. It turns fairness into motion and then steps out of the way.